Hey friends, before we dive into this week's episode, just a heads up. Our podcast talks about suicide, sexual abuse, and other trauma, and some of what you hear may be triggering, so please listen with care. This is The Survivors, real stories, raw conversations, and the truth about what it means to keep going after the hardest things. We're so glad you're here. Let's keep surviving together.
You know what's been on my mind lately, especially since we lost my mother-in-law earlier this year?
What?
I think one of the hardest things about grief is that it feels so invisible. It can feel invisible to everybody around us. Like when you're carrying this huge weight of pain and loss inside you, like it's overwhelming your heart and all of your thoughts and your day-to-day, but the rest of the world just keeps spinning around you, business as usual, but it's all we can think about, and it's everywhere we go with us. It's like, kind of ball and chain like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I can't even tell you, in 2023, when we lost so many people in such a short amount of time, I felt like I was walking around with a bowling ball sized hole in my gut.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, how on earth can the world not see this?
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely almost impossible. And it was many days to function in any kind of normal capacity. And so I get it, and it's really hard. So what do you do when you feel like that?
I don't know, honestly. At times I get kind of inwardly frustrated or a little bit almost angry, but it's so irrational. Like I have to kind of talk myself down because I'll be like I really do. I'll be sometimes, it just happened the other day. I think I was in Whole Foods and something crossed my mind and I was thinking about my mother-in-law and I was just by myself, just kind of like in the fruit section, whatever it was. And I was all of a sudden very overwhelmed by a thought of her, and it made me really emotional. And I'm watching everybody else, pick up and put down their fruit, and they're squeezing all their lemons and all that, and I'm just standing there in the middle of the produce section with tears coming down my face, feeling like, doesn't anybody around me see how much I'm hurting? And I guess it was like this irrational thought, like, why are these people not coming up to hug me right now and ask me how I'm okay? I mean, like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, but it really is how I was feeling. It's like you almost expect at times that everybody else can see it too and feel it too. And they can't. And I could never fault anybody. My rational mind would never fault anybody for that. But there are definitely times like in that moment, I had to be like, whoa, wait a minute. You're not wearing a billboard. This did not happen to them. These people are strangers. They don't know you or your life. But it's really painful. And sometimes you and I were talking about this before we hit record. Sometimes you just want someone to witness it.
Mm-hmm. That's the greatest thing that you can do for anybody that is grieving, is to sit with them and be with them while they're grieving. Don't try and fix it. Don't force them to talk about it. Just sit and be. And if they sob uncontrollably, if they're angry, whatever it is that they need to be. Now, it does take somebody that's very emotionally strong to be that person for the grieving. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, that person that's grieving will never forget it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely never forget you showing up for them. And even, so we often talk about how people show up a lot in the beginning and the grieving goes on for months and years. And so after about 6, usually 3 more, like people are just go back to their normal lives. They stop checking in and how hard that gets when you're left alone in it. So continue to check on your people that have lost somebody. Mm-hmm. It is incredibly hard for months and years, especially when they've had multiple losses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I call my father-in-law, I think I've told you this, that when we lost my mother-in-law back in January, when they're down in Florida and we're here in Boston, when I left Florida that night when I got home, I called my father-in-law. How was the rest of your day? I'm just thinking about you. I called him the next morning, and I remember him saying, I said, just want to check in on you. Just want to say, just be gentle with yourself today. And what are you doing today? And that kind of thing. And I remember after that first or second phone call, he just said, can you do this every day? And I said, yep, I will do it every day. Do you know I'm the queen of having alarms on my phone. So I have got 7 days a week. I have a morning alarm. It's such a running joke in my family. 7:45 alarm goes off and I call my father-in-law. 8:05 p.m. alarm. Don't ask me why it's 8:05. It's just, it is. 8:05 p.m. I call him to find out how his day was. And sometimes we talk for 20 minutes. Sometimes we talk for 20 seconds. And I've been doing this now for almost 5 months. And he still this week was like, you know how much I love this, don't you? And it matters. It's those little acts of just being present for someone. Like I can't fix it. I can't fix it. Our daughter came home. I didn't even tell you this. You know that my daughter Riley came home from Japan. I was just there last month and she came home with me. She was wedding dress shopping. And she had not been home to the U.S. since my mother-in-law passed away. And it was like 1:00 in the morning. She was super jet lagged. And she came up into our bed and crawled into our bed and was like, are you guys awake? And we started talking and my mother-in-law came up and she had not really had like an experience of someone close to her who knew my mother-in-law with her to experience that grief. Like all the cousins, we were all in Florida. We were all together. She was the only one in the family who was not with us because she was abroad and she was with her husband, which is amazing. But he never met my mother-in-law. So there was no way for her. No friends over there met her. So she sobbed and we cried together and I couldn't fix it. It is the most gut-wrenching thing in the world to not be able to fix someone's pain that you love, especially your child. But you could see the relief afterwards, after she kind of cycled through it and was just like, I didn't realize how much I needed that and how much I needed to do that in the presence of the people that I love. And we don't realize how powerful it is to just hold space, but it is.
Absolutely. It's those. I'm so glad that you still did that for your father-in-law. I've mentioned before about how my aunt did that. She called me every day on her lunch break for months after I lost multiple family members, and it made all the difference in the world. Sometimes I didn't answer the phone, but she still left a message, and she still called every day. And I honestly have to say she was probably one of the most instrumental people of getting me through that, to just know that I had her to depend on and talk to. And I'll be forever grateful to her. It's just, it means the absolute world to people when you just show up and continue to show up for months and years. The world, yes, it goes on, but people are walking around with a gaping hole for months and years and forever, really, And so I really think about that a lot, because I remember those that did show up, and I remember those that I thought would show up but didn't.
Yeah, you and I have talked about that.
Yeah, and it's honestly very kind of heartbreaking at the same time, but it also lets you know, like, I cannot depend on that person, and it's really unfortunate. But it also, makes you realize, oh wow, this person showed up for me. I didn't expect him to, and I am so grateful for that, And, the hardest thing is realizing that the world moves on, and it does, even though it feels like it's stopped for you, the world keeps moving. And, I remember, you have to get back to life.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around having just buried 4 family members in 5 months. And I would still get up, and I wasn't working at the time, but I still had to be a mom and do all the things. And I remember I would go run errands, grocery shop, do whatever it was I needed to do. And I would get home and I was like, I was on autopilot the whole time. I had no recollection of what I had just done. I mean, the groceries were just there, but I do not remember the moment to moment going through and doing what I just did for hours.
Yeah.
And that's, is disassociation, where your body goes into survival. It does what it needs to do. And then you get home and then you crash and burn because you just did all this stuff when you probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah. It's so disorienting. It's so disorienting.
And I remember my sister saying the same thing. Like she'd had trouble sleeping and she would get up in the middle of the night and go to Winco. It's
what is that?
It's like this really cool grocery store that has like bulk bins. It's like a grocery store.
Whoa. That has what?
Bulk bins. Okay, so it's like a grocery store. It's only available in the western half of the country, I believe.
Okay, I am from the East Coast. We have we have Costco here.
We have right, but it's a grocery store, but better. I'm trying to think of what it is equivalent. There's not really an equivalent to it.
All right, now I'm intrigued.
But they also have like bulk bins of like all the food you can imagine. And so you can literally go fill up bags at cheaper rates. And anyway, so she's at this grocery store. Walmart's not open 24/7 anymore. No, she said she would go to Winco in the middle of the night and just meander through the aisles.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would get home. Sometimes I would buy stuff. Sometimes I wouldn't. And then I'd wake up I'd go to sleep and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I guess I went to Winco last night.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like she was taking Ambien.
Right.
Have you heard about that?
I have.
Sleep shopping, sleepwalking, sleep eating.
Sleep naughty time.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. That was a whole next level I didn't expect.
I swear we've talked about that.
We have. No, I think we have. Yeah. It's all coming back to me.
This is, yes. Mm-hmm. This is not the episode for it.
Nope. So, all right. Well, here's my question. Here, I have many questions. So,
okay.
I think in my own case, it's like I irrationally probably expected people to recognize that I was in pain, but like they can't see through me and they don't know what's inside my head. And yet you just kind of wish everybody knew so that they could acknowledge it. Do you think that part of loneliness comes because it's so isolating and lonely when you're like trapped in your little head and body with all of this pain and loss and grief? Do you think that loneliness comes from just wanting people to have the pain acknowledged? Like, I know it comes from that, but what are your thoughts about that? Like, where do you think all that pain comes from?
Uniquely for me and my family, the loneliness comes from no other family has experienced this kind of loss.
Yeah.
Having lost 5 brothers to suicide.
That's what I was just going to ask
you. And our
dad
to cancer. I mean, many people have lost their dad to cancer. Many people know someone that have died by suicide. But to our knowledge, there is no other family that we are aware of that has lost 5 siblings in the same generation to suicide.
Yeah. And you lost 5 brothers.
Yes. And 3 of which occurred in a 3-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's incredibly isolating and just knowing that nobody else knows what that pain feels like. And we spend a lot of time together as a family during the initial loss. But because of how we were raised, we all kind of retreat back into a shell and just go it alone.
Hey, it's Lisa Sugarman, co-host of The Survivors and founder of the Help Hub. If you're listening right now and you're not okay, if you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or like you're carrying more than you can handle, please know you don't have to go through it alone. You can call or text 988 or chat online at 988lifeline.org to connect with trained counselors like me who are there to listen and support you in the moment. Reaching out is a brave first step, and you owe it to yourself. Because your life matters, your story matters, and help is always just 3 numbers away.
Yeah.
After the initial few weeks.
Yeah, I think the moving on part is so deeply personal. Like, it's so interesting to me, kind of the timeline that people who are grieving follow, how subjective and unique it is. You've got people who, lose a spouse and they never have another companion. And then you've got people who do and
Are
lose a
remarried
spouse.
within a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you meet someone immediately and it's, and there is no right or wrong. Like there is no grief manual. There is nothing like that exists. And it's hard because, and I would imagine for you coming from such a big family who's experienced so much incredible loss, that I'm sure you probably had family members who some were kind of emotionally incapacitated for much longer and some for a shorter period of time, and people kind of getting back to their lives and moving on. And who knows, maybe allowing themselves to be joyful or to celebrate things. And it was that weird for you at all? Like, did that happen where in your family you had you were maybe in the thick of it, or somebody else was in the thick of it and somebody else wasn't? And did that cause conflict?
I think so those of us that actually dealt with it, we moved at pretty much a similar pace.
Okay.
And then we had those that buried their head in the sand, refused to confront that grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that they eventually imploded.
Did they? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Refusing to face the past and refusing to face what hurts you. I can say for Brennan and Monroe, it did eat them alive. And they're the last to die by suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
Others reverted to alcohol, drugs, to numb the pain.
Yeah.
And continue to do so. And so I've just, as many know, I've stepped away from my family, and I've had a little bit of interaction with my family in the last few weeks, as one of my siblings has had some medical issues that have been rather concerning and has brought up some anticipatory grief.
Oh, I don't even know this. Do I know this?
That one of my siblings was pretty close to death?
Yes, I did know this. Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And so after now having lost so many family members, and when somebody gets that close, it's anticipatory grief.
Yeah.
I was literally just braced and ready for any kind of word that they had passed. And it's a really hard thing to walk through. And excuse me, there's not many people that know what to do or say. Honestly, George doesn't either. And George's mother just passed away a month ago.
I know she did.
And so for us, it's just like, it's a never, and it feels like it's just going to be never ending death for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And so I have gotten really good at just going it alone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do. But I do know that I have to focus on the small things, my kids. I look forward to our conversations that we have here, really mean a lot to me, and they do help a lot. So I have to say thank you so much for listening, because without everyone listening, we wouldn't be able to do this.
That's right. And it's just as powerful for me, too, to have these conversations. We talked a lot about how nobody prepares us for how quickly the world moves on around us after we've lost somebody. Our life has changed forever, and then all of a sudden people around you are talking about going on vacation and they're celebrating, and it's a hard place to know how to fit in. Like you just said something that kind of resonated with me about how you go it alone. I really feel like grief is such an unbelievably isolating and solitary experience, because even if you are experiencing it, like I've experienced this grief of my mother-in-law with my whole family, and yet I'm still so locked in my own grief about it, and everybody is so unique. And I have to always remind myself that people, it's not that someone's being insensitive. It's that everybody deals with it in a different way, number one. And number two, the people on the outside who are going about their lives, they don't even know us. They don't know what's going on under our hood, under the surface, because life just keeps going and you don't know what you don't know. I remember I just had this weird memory come up while I was thinking about doing this show and having this conversation. I remember the day of my dad's funeral. So I lost my dad when I was 10. And I remember I was in my bedroom at the end of the hall, And we had literally just come home from the cemetery, and I kind of made a beeline to my room to be by myself. And I wasn't in there very long, and all of a sudden I heard arguing, which was very just startling, because who would be arguing at my dad's funeral? And it was coming from our kitchen. So I kind of ran down the hall to see what was going on. And I saw my grandmother. This is my dad's whole side of the family. I saw they were in the kitchen in this crazy conversation about the family business. And they were arguing about money at my dad's funeral. Like, complete and total disregard for the fact that they were sitting in my kitchen paying condolences on their family member who just died. And they're all bitching at each other and arguing. And I was 10 years old. And I remember, like, such a core memory. I remember yelling at them, like raising my voice to everyone and saying, "You're being so disrespectful to my dad. How can you be talking about all of these things when we're all sitting here grieving and sad, and we just buried my dad this morning?" And they, like, every single one of my grandmothers, my aunts and uncles, they just froze. And I don't really remember what happened after that, because I pretty much blacked out. But I mean,
that's incredible, though. I'm so glad that you did that.
Oh, I am too. I mean, my mother was just like, my mother came in my bedroom after.
Your mom was literally like, she was like in her brain, just like clapping so loud.
Yep, like snapping the me too. And I the one thing I do remember after that is kind of saying what I had to say and then running down the hall to my bedroom in tears, because I was so offended that they were so unbelievably insensitive. Like, how can you not be completely grief-stricken in this moment? Like, you just came from his funeral. What nerve you have to be talking about family business and arguing about it and like moving on. Like, you had totally just moved on from the whole experience. Yep. Like, okay, that part's over.
Wash my hands. It's
right.
over.
And I remember my mom kind of followed me down the hall into my bedroom and like, you know, kind of scooped me up and put her arms around me and was like, "I'm proud of you." Like, they were so wrong to do that, and good for you for saying something. But yeah, just one crazy core memory of how horrible it can be when you're just a mess and grieving and lost, and people are just business as usual, just going about, you know, their everyday lives. You know, I remember feeling, especially when I found out. So for people who may not know, I just said I lost my dad when I was 10. I was told he died of a heart attack. He did not. I found out 35 years later that he had actually taken his life. And I found that out about 13 years ago. And when I found that out, it was a type of grief at a time in my life that I was completely unprepared for. I was married for 20 years. I had 2 kids. I was the same exact age that my father was when he died. It was just such a bizarre time for me. And you talk about like going to the supermarket and doing a grocery run and then coming home and not having a clue that you just did it. I was like that for 3 years. I walked around. I was 2 totally different people. I was in the school system. I was teaching. I had teenage kids at home. And I was living like 2 completely separate lives. And it really depleted me in ways that it took me years to process how much it depleted me, because here I was living inside this like cocoon of grief, and my whole world is shattered, and I'm not saying anything. And you know what? I look back on that now. I'm actually having this realization right this second in real time. I didn't say anything for some real legitimate reasons, like my kids didn't know. I didn't want my kids to know the truth about my dad until I felt it was time to tell them. But I wish that I had been open more, or like earlier, had opened up earlier about it, so that I didn't have to hide it, so that I could have leaned on people. Because when I did finally come out and talk to people about it, I mean, most people were unbelievably supportive and kind and gracious and there for me. But God, that was so weird. Just like any little thing that I did, any like get-togethers with people, like I was pulling away from everybody. And it was such a struggle to even like go to work every day and be there in my own head with this whole real reality just under the surface. It was a really hard time. It was a really hard time.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah. It's like you're living an alternate reality.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You wake up and it's there, but then you go about your day and you get home, at the end of the day, you realize how much energy it actually took just to exist and do what you needed to do that day. Mm-hmm. And then you get up and rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that burnout is so real.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel like you probably do. One of the most important things I think that grief has taught me is that we really just never, ever know what somebody else is carrying.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. I mean, smoke and mirrors, that's a real thing. Optics, people playing the part, being performative, saying and doing the things that they think that they should, even when things are completely different than they appear to be. I have a lot more compassion for people. I think you said that either earlier when you and I were talking offline, that you just you sit next to somebody on the train or on a plane or standing in the grocery line, and you just have absolutely no idea what somebody else is going through. And my own grief has given me so much more empathy for the people in the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I don't assume anything anymore about anybody.
Right. Getting upset when somebody cuts you off or whatever. I mean, how many times did we drive around when we probably shouldn't have been because we were on autopilot and, or somebody that looks a mess in the grocery store. I remember going to my kids' baseball and softball games. I had holes in my pants. I had holes in my shirt because I was just wearing these grubby nothings.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the important thing was that I was there. I was showing up for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, you know what? If you see somebody out in public and they look like they don't give a crap, probably they're grieving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or dealing with something pretty damn heavy.
Yeah.
Because their appearance is the last thing that they're worried about.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. So to just kind of tie this up and wrap it up at the end, if you're listening and you're grieving in real time right now, and it doesn't just necessarily mean like a fresh loss. It could be months, like we said. Grief is cyclical. You can be actively grieving years after you've lost somebody. But if you're carrying something really, really heavy right now and nobody around you can see it, this is just a reminder from us to you that we just want you to know that you're not alone. Like, we see you. Please reach out to us. If you just want someone to acknowledge what you're dealing with and carrying, send us a DM. We're all over socials. Our handles and our contacts are all in the show notes. The fact that people cannot see your pain does not mean that your pain isn't real. It's real, and we see that. And, the fact that the world keeps spinning doesn't mean that your loss doesn't matter or that your pain's not valid. And you're not doing grieving wrong. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. It just means you're human. So just wanted to remind people that we see you and you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone.
And be kind to yourself in the grieving process. It's one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life. And please be kind to yourself.
That is the perfect place to end. I'm glad we had this conversation. I'm glad we have every conversation.
Me too.
If I'm being honest. Friends, thanks for listening. If you hung in this long, we'll see you next week. In the meantime, you know the drill. Keep surviving.
See you soon.
Thanks so much for listening and for being part of the Survivors community. No matter where you are in your story, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. Healing takes time, and it looks different for everyone. The fact that you're still here and still trying means you're already doing the hard work. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. That's how we keep these conversations going and remind each other that there's always hope.
And if you or someone you know is struggling, please remember, help is always out there. You can call or text 988 anytime to reach a trained crisis counselor like me. And for more mental health resources, tools, treatment options, and content to support your mental health, visit thehelphub.co. We're so grateful you're part of the Survivors family, and we'll be back next week with another honest conversation about life after the hardest things. Until then, take care of yourself and your people and keep surviving.